Hi everyone, Jeremy here from VES Studio, and today I would like to introduce you to our VES branded pack, which is a pack we've basically created for ourselves, gathering some of our best tools created over the years alongside brand new ones. We wanted to make it easy for ourselves to edit better videos by compiling everything we're using for our channel in one place. That way, we avoid wasting time looking for the right asset and be sure that our branding and design stay consistent across the video. In this video, I'll show you how to get the most out of the assets and how to combine them with each other to get the best look. So if you're ready, let's jump into it. Alright, so once you both the pack on our website, you will get this zip file. Just double click on it to unzip it. It will give you access to a folder. Just double click on it and you will find the TRFX, the license, the installation instruction, and the fonts. Please make sure to install the font, otherwise the title will not work. You will get a black screen, basically because Davinci Resolve doesn't know what font to replace it with. So make sure to select all the fonts, and then you can just double click on them to start the installation process or drag them directly to your font folder. Once that's done, you can just go over to the TRFX file and double click on the TRFX file. It's gonna ask you if you want to install it. Right now I already have it installed, so I'm just gonna override it, and then you should be set up and you can go over to Davinci Resolve. Alright, so once in Davinci Resolve, you can find everything here in Effect in different tabs. You will have some in the video transition, some in titles, and some in Effect. So let me go first in title. We're gonna go to VES Studio, and then we're gonna just scroll down to VES branded pack. As you can see here, we have different categories. We have backgrounds, we have callouts, we have call to actions, essentials, original titles, and we have pointers finally. They all share a common base of functionality, but some have some specificity depending on what they do. First off, let's start with the background. You have 2 static background and 8 animated background. So here, for example, we can just bring a static background and it will just give you control over simple things like the grid control. Here you can just increase the number of row, the number of column, and you can just play around with the overall look of that background, which is also the case for the animated one. But depending on the project you're working on, you might not want to have something that is too distracting with animation in the background. That's why we provided those two. But if you want to have something that is less subtle and more catchy, we've also provided some more colorful animated background. For example, here, background 10 and background 9 that are just very different, that have a lot more color, and as you can see, that is animated. So here, if we play it, as you can see, we got slight animation going on. On this specific one, for example, you can here increase the blur strength to have something that is a bit more subtle. And you can see mostly the colors moving, but not that much the rounded shape that was in the center. You also have control over each of those different gradient colors. And that's pretty much it. I'll let you go through each of those different backgrounds to just see the small specificity that they each have. But as you can see, they all have very similar functionality. It's just a matter of changing the color, maybe changing the rotation or the angle, but they're all sharing a common base. Those backgrounds can be a great base to basically start to do like a card. For example, an announcement card or like an intro. So here I will take, for example, the background number 5, and then we're just gonna scroll down and we're gonna go to the original titles. Those ones are just more stylized text title that you can use to introduce maybe a part of your video, that you can use as a sequence card or like for an intro. There's a lot that you can do with those. So for this one, I'm going to use the original title number 8 and drag it directly here in my timeline. By the way, you can get that title with the link in the description below. That's the sample for this pack, so you can just download it and just play around with it and check it out. And just like that, with only 2 titles, we've created, I think, a fairly interesting like card with like a nice text and a nice background. Quick tip in case you don't get real-time playback right here, just always make sure to go to playback here, run the cache, and make sure that it's in smart or user instead of none. That will basically just bring up that bar right here that will switch from red to blue when the title is fully cached in, and that will allow you to play with real-time playback without having any drop frame issue. Now let's delete what we've created and bring some footage in our timeline. So I'm gonna bring clip, and we can use the pointers, for example, to point at whatever is important in our clip. So for example, here there will be that hiker we can just drop that above it. And then here in control, we can just play around with the width. We can play around with the border width to just like really customize that pointer as we want, to have like either thick line or to have a thin line. And then here we can adjust the position. So here I'm gonna drag that and we're gonna place it basically around our subject right here. And now if we play it, we have that pointer coming into place and just pointing at whatever we want to point in our video. You can control the animation of most of those titles. So right now, for example, you can choose to have no animation in by selecting animation in, off, or on. And that will be the same thing here with the animation out that you can select off or on. You can also choose the animation length in seconds. So right now by default, it's 2.5, but we can have it a lot faster here by selecting 1 second. And as you can see now, the animation will be a lot faster. Then another category available is here the callout. So you have 5 different callouts that you can choose from. Some have loader, so you could load a logo of your choice. Some will be good at displaying numbers, and some will be better at displaying text. So here, for example, if we take the first one, we can just take it and here drag it above our clip. And now we can just play around with the position of that callout by going around to line control. And then here we can just place the point wherever we want to place the point. So here, we're gonna place it on our subject. And then we're gonna place the second point of our branch slightly to the side. So I'm gonna move it over here and then slightly lower right there, for example. And now we're gonna do the same thing with the point text. So we can just move it wherever we want on screen. Right now, I'm just gonna keep it relatively at the same level as the first branch. Here we go. As you can see by the way the points are behaving, you can basically position the text wherever you want on screen, meaning that right now we're on the right side, but if you want to have the text on the left side, you can do that very easily right there, and then we can move this second point and you will have it on the left side now. The text is automatically adapted to the box in that case, so if you're writing, as you can see, the box is extended. So you don't have to worry about the size of the box when you're writing your text. However, you can still do some alteration to the box if you wish to. For example, here we can extend the box horizontally or vertically, but same thing here, it will just keep those properties whenever you're gonna write more text, which make the callout very responsive and easy to use. You can also make some modification to the center point. Right here, you can just change the shape of the center point by playing around with the corner radius and going from square to circle. Or you can also just play here with the rotation angle by moving it around. You also have control over the general shadow, glow, and background as usual for all our titles. Quickly, another callout right here. If you bring the callout number 5, as you can see, you can load any logo that you like. So here you can simply go to image, browse, and then here you can load whatever image you want, and it will be brought to Davinci Resolve. You can then just play around with the size and positioning of that image. Another category right here is going to be the call to action. So we have a different call to action. For example, here, link in description. We have install now. We have download and thank you. And we have a button add to cart, thank you. And right here, we have a search bar. Those are pretty straightforward to use and doesn't need much explanation. It's basically cosmetic only. You can just like play around with the different colors, with the different shape, and customize everything as you wish. Change the text very easily to anything that you like, but that will be pretty simple to use if you've used any title in the past. So have a nice and clean animation, basically to promote whatever action that you want to be promoted. Now, the last category in titles that contain a bunch of different assets is essential. In there, you will find a variety of very, very useful titles. For example, here, you will find some bullet points. You can use multiple of them to create different lists whenever you want to list anything on your video. Those are a lot more specific, so they tend to have like different parameters. For example, on this one, you can choose between a bunch of different animation. Right now, by default, the animation is slide up, but you could have, for example, something coming from pan left. So right now you have the bullet point coming from the left instead of sliding up. You have also a bunch of different buttons to choose from the different type of bullets between circle, square, and diamond. And you can also choose between the different curve animation in and out. I will suggest that you will leave them as it is, but if you want to play around with that because you know what you're doing, you can do so right here. The rest will be very easy to customize as usual with, for example, the text, the shadow, the glow, etc. Same thing as the callout. For example, for the text here, the box will adapt automatically to whatever text you're just typing, and you can change the same modification here with the horizontal, the vertical, and the round. So here, for example, you can just increase the round to have a box that has circle edges instead of having square straight edges. You can choose between so many different styles for the box. For example, here you can have an outline, you can have an outline around text, for example. There is really a lot that you can do with this. In Essential, we also have a few lower third. For example, there is one right here where same thing, you can use a loader to bring any image you like, and you can have any text that you want right here. Same thing as usual, the text will be adaptive and the box will basically extend as the text is written. On this, you can choose to have, for example, either 2 line or 1 line and make your modification depending on that. We will also have some lower third for paragraph. So here, same thing. You can have a paragraph if you need to display a lot more text, for example. And we will have a few other very useful ones, for example, that progression bar. So that progression bar will basically continue to extend from the beginning to the end of the title. So that can be very useful for Reels, for example, or for whenever you want to represent the passing of time in your video for like a sponsor section or whatever it might be. Another useful one will be the branded timer. So here basically it will be a simple timer that is displayed on the screen that will basically count up or count down from whatever initial start time that you display. So here in time control, by default, as you can see here, it's 5 minutes and 49 seconds, 45 seconds actually. But if you start this to 0, it will start counting from 0, okay? And you can have it count up, or if you reverse it, but like in that case you will need to choose here, for example, 1 minute or whatever the time, so you can just decrease the counting from there. It will do so. You can basically play around with the different second, minute, hours, etc. to display whatever time you want to display. Here you can just show hours, minute, and second, or you can show, for example, here only second if that's what you want to show. You can also display here a different text, or completely remove the text if you wish and only display some time passing. So there is again a lot that you can do with that, and obviously you can just extend it to represent whatever length of time that you need to represent on screen. And that will be it with the title section. Now let's quickly move to the video transition. So let's go to video transition and VES branded pack. And here you have basically 5 different transitions that you can choose from. Here, let me just unzoom on the timeline and bring another clip to basically show you the transition. Right now, if I try to bring any transition between those 2 clips, nothing happens. It's because we need to trim the excess in between those 2 to give enough space for the transition to happen. So here, I'm just gonna trim it slightly, and we're gonna just bring them together, and we're gonna bring here, for example, the branded glitch. So now if I play it, as you can see, we got a glitch transition happening between the 2. You have a few control here with the glitch to basically adjust the look of it as you want for the boxes. You can make them wider, change the height, change the chroma, etc. And it will be pretty similar for each transition. There is not a lot that you can customize because they are built to be like very easy to use. So here we have this panel one, we have another one here that is sliced, and we have slide. But for example, here on that slide, as you can see, you have a lot more that you can choose from. So you actually have more than one transition that can be used, because you can adjust here if you want it coming from the left side, from down, up, etc. And then you have different type of slide between number 1 and number 2. You can also add some motion blur if you wish to, and you can adjust here the quality of that blur, the shutter angle, etc. I will recommend to bring the quality as high as possible and bring probably the shutter angle like fairly high as well. If you're using the motion blur, I will tend to recommend to bring the quality all the way up and bring here the shutter angle also fairly up, depending on the amount of blur that you want to use. But just keep in mind that the motion blur is going to be a lot more taxing on your system, so you may need to leave it at the time to cache in before playing it. As you can see right now, it's a lot more heavy than the first time I played. But when it's done, as you can see, you get a transition that is slightly nicer with like a good motion blur on the movement. And the last transition here will be a zoom. So we basically like cover your bases in terms of basic transition that you can use on one given video with stuff that will be a bit more to display, you know, like information, for example, switching from, let's say, you know, A-roll to screen recording. We will have some branded zoom for like more B-roll transition. So you basically have plenty of stuff to work with. So now let's move on to the effect. So I'm just gonna close here Video Editor Studio, and we're gonna go over to effect right here, Video Editor Studio, and then here VES branding. Let me delete the transition that we just used, and let's work only on that video clip right here. So you got a few different effects that you can choose from. Those one will be dragged directly onto your clips. So right now I'm gonna start with the pointer, and I'm gonna drag that directly above our clip. As you can see right here, it's basically blurring out the entirety of the screen except for what is in the circle right here. So you can play around if you want to have a rectangle, if you want to have a circle, you can have either a colored background or you can have a blur, and you can adjust here if you want to have an animation in and out, off or on. You can adjust the position of the media within that circle here to just draw the focus on whatever you want to focus on. You can adjust here the overall size of the actual zoom, and you can just play around here with the blur, the strength of the blur around it. You can also here adjust the circle, the soft edge, position, etc. So here you can have, you know, the position of the circle being wherever you want it to be. You can play around with the soft edges and with the general look of the circle. Then here, another effect that you can use is the dual screen, which will be great to display, for example, text information and still having your video right here. So as you can see here, you have a bar that is just coming in, and that can leave enough space for you to add any text you like. For example, you could use that in combination here with title bullet points. So you can just go back to Video Editor Studio, and then here go to Essentials. You can take the bullet point, drag that in your timeline, and basically here you will have the space to display your bullet points. So I'm gonna just drag that a bit forward, and now we're having that coming into play and then the bullet point coming in. So then you can make your list easily. Then if you need to replace, for example, the text, you can always go and select here text. Make sure that it's not in video but in effect, because that's an effect. And then here you can adjust the mask width. You can choose, you know, if you want it to be left, right, up, down, etc. If you need to adjust the position of your clip, for example, here you want to see more of that guy and you don't want to have it cut out, what you can do is go back to video, and then here you can adjust the position of that video. Also, another possibility, if you want to have it animated, for example, you could go here at the beginning when the slide is happening, and make sure that you here switch back to video. You can drop a keyframe on the position, and then you can move a few frames forward until that's done, and then you can just move the position to whatever you want. So here in that case, don't want it to be horizontally, so we can just move that right here, and now we have the movement happening as well. Now another effect right here is the continuous zoom. So if you play it, as you can see, we have a continuous zoom going on our screen. We can choose to have it as a zoom in or a zoom out, and it will just act throughout the entirety of our clip. We can also adjust the zoom scale, basically if we want the zoom to be more intense or less intense. So here, basically we'll start more zoom in and go slightly zoom out until the end of the clip. If you want to have it more subtle, you can just reduce that, for example, to here 0.2, and we will have only a slight zoom out going on. Then we have cinematic bar. You can just drag it right here and you will have basically some cinematic bar coming on, but with an animation in. You can choose to have no animation at all. For example, here, if you just want to have them, you can play around with the scale depending on the aspect ratio that you want for your cinematic bar. But yeah, I think that's quite nice to be able to have like that animation, because you can do that natively very easily inside of Davinci Resolve, but having the animation of the bar I think is pretty cool. So if you want that, that's available in there as well. Then the last one, animation in and out, is really helpful to help you animate some small stuff. So here, for example, let me drag something in my timeline. Let's say, for example, I want to bring that cover on screen and I want to animate it nicely. I could easily just drag that animation in and out effect. And as you can see here, we have a simple like pop-in happening. So we can then simply adjust the overall size and position. So I'm going to reduce it, for example, and here put it to the side. And then we can just play it and we have that simple animation going on. And you have the animation in and you have the animation out. You can choose between different kind of animations. So here by default, it's zoom in, but you can have zoom out, pan right, pan left. So here, for example, I can choose pan left for it to come from the left side right there. And I can do the same thing here for the animation out. You can select different kind of animations. For example, I can having coming in from the left, and then we can have slide down. So here that will come from the left, and then for the animation out, that will just slide down out of screen. So that's very helpful to just animate small elements on screen when you need to bring any sort of images. And that's pretty much it. I know that was a very long video, but I really wanted to go in detail in what is in the pack, what you can expect from it, and just show you how different elements can work together. The goal of that pack was really for us to have everything within one place, so we don't need to just like use multiple packs to manage our channel, and we thought that would be very helpful for other people to do the same. So there is definitely some repetition. There is some asset that we've reused from all other packs. So that might not be a pack for everyone, but that's just a pack that has everything that we think is useful for a small channel, to just have different kind of asset that you might need to use in one single video, ranging from titles to background to transition, because you don't need to have 500 plus title and transition. You want to come back to only a few one to have first off a consistent branding, and on top of that for ease of use, so you don't go all over the place all the time looking for new stuff. So I hope that was helpful. Please let me know in a comment what kind of pack you would like to see next, if you enjoy that idea of one branded pack, and we can just try to take the same structure and create different design to fit different aesthetic. Let me know if you'll be interested in that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Speed up your workflow and create better videos using the pack available on our website, including titles, transition, and templates built only for Davinci Resolve. Get started today by downloading our free starter pack that contains over 150 elements. Link in the description below or at videoeditorstudio.com.